Rhino in Sacktown to talk about the Kings. They begin a two-game homestand tonight against the Mavericks. No Luka Doncic tonight, so we'll see how that turns out. We've got a lot to talk about, and it's all coming up with Sean Salisbury in just a moment. And oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about today. Sean, how the hell are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Every time I see that intro and I see that dunk, I'm like, boy, is that vicious, man.
Yeah,
it never gets old seeing it, the reaction from everybody like, oh, hell no. You don't want to be on the receiving end of that. Awesome. I'm doing great, man.
That's good. Before we talk about Sunday, I mean, what an absolutely crazy flurry at the NBA trade deadline. I'm just curious. Do you think Phoenix getting Durant, assuming that Booker and everyone else can be healthy, do you think they've elevated themselves to the team to beat in the West?
I do, or close, Grant. Nuggets are never going away. And the depth of the distance. I mean, right now, like the Lakers sit at like the 13 spot, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's crazy, but a 6-game run and then a losing streak for somebody else, and they're at 8, right? So the East has got the top heavy. I personally, I don't think Philadelphia is going to.
I agree. Not with James Harden.
Not. I think that's exactly right. I think it's 2-horse race.
Yep.
Boston and Milwaukee, and they got everything you need. Great team game, and they got stars, Tatum and Giannis to do their thing. In the West, I do, Grant, but the if factor that you hit perfectly. And when you talk about the Lakers, well, if Anthony Davis is healthy, if you talk about with the Suns, it's Booker getting back, Chris Paul's health, and now KD, who's been out for a while now too. Yeah, if they are, you're looking at a damn good team. Now they gave up some depth, so they're going all in like it feels like the Rams, like we talked about getting Stafford with KD, that type of thing to try and go get it because they gave up so much.
Yep.
So, but the Nuggets, will Dallas and Memphis, are they mature enough to make a run? I think on paper it says Suns, but I got to see it because I've seen enough of paper championships in my life, my man.
I'll tell you this right now. If I'm a team in the West that's going to be in the playoffs, there are 2 teams I do not want to see in the first round, assuming that both those teams are healthy. Golden State and the Lakers. And I'll tell you something about Golden State. If Steph Curry is healthy, okay, if the Golden State Warriors are healthy, and I understand it has been a very atypical year for them, but you tell me, Sean, you're a coach on the Kings or the Grizzlies or whomever else, and you have to play that team healthy in the first round, I'm picking the Warriors every day of the week. If Steph Curry's healthy, that's the team I'm going with.
There's no doubt. I mean, the record says underachieved this year. Talent and health says look out. If they're in, they could make a run and get after it. But see how many ifs there are, Grant? There really are. Yep. There's a ton of ifs. I mean, we know the standard of non-if that are going to give you every night. Jokic, John Morant's got games. I mean, Luka when he's on the court most of the time. So we know that. But the injury thing, I almost feel like we're talking football. In basketball, it's like, oh, gosh. I mean, again, the West Coast team, but it's so deep. The 2 top-heavy teams with the Philadelphia on the outside. But, Grant, I was going to ask you about Sacramento, and I know you spent so much time talking about that. We were discussing them because, Eric Gordon out of the Clippers and all the trades, that Wiseman out, and it could be a listen, if Detroit finds a way to get that guy on the court and discover his talent when he came up, it's going to be a legalized theft because Golden State was hanging on like, gosh, we want it to work, but I think he's only played 60 games there. So and a guy who's at 7 foot who can run the court like him, I'm anxious to see what happens with his career. But Grant, with Sacramento, is this smoke and mirrors? Do they have enough to roll through the West in the playoffs?
No chance.
They play good basketball, but I don't think they're. I don't know if they can do this for the whole. I mean, even to get to the Western Conference Final, they can't, can they?
No chance, Sean.
Okay,
they're a good team, but they're not anything above a good team. They've had the fewest games missed due to injury. They haven't had any injuries. That's number one.
Good to be lucky once in a while, right, Grant?
Got to be lucky.
Yeah.
the other night against the Rockets, I don't know if you saw the end of that game. There's no way the Rockets should have lost that game. The Kings stole that game.
Right.
I'm not minimizing what the Kings have done because this is a franchise that hasn't been in the playoffs in 16 years and hasn't had a winning record in 16 years. So even getting into the playoffs as an 8th seed this year is a hell of an accomplishment.
Agreed.
Right now, they're a 3rd seed. One of the biggest reasons why they're a 3rd seed is because of the injuries to the teams that we just mentioned. And we didn't even include New Orleans in that, who, by the way, when Zion Williams went down, was the number 1 team in the West. We didn't even mention
out. He's
That's
out
correct.
and will not play in the All-Star game either as a
That's
starter.
Correct. That's correct. So the Kings, starting tonight against Dallas, although Luka's not playing, have the 3rd toughest remaining schedule in the league. The Kings have been a very inconsistent team the last 4 weeks. They have not played well. Sean, they're a lot like the team you were talking about, Houston, on defense.
Right.
They couldn't stop themselves. All right, the Kings' defense is non-existent. So on nights, Sean, when they're not making shots from downtown, like happened the other night against Houston, and somehow, some way they were able to win the game, the Kings aren't going to win because they don't have anything else to fall back on. But their growth and their future looks very promising because Sabonis is once again an all-star. He's young. Fox was just added to the all-star team. They've got Keegan Murray, the rookie, who's good. They've got some very nice pieces. But are they capable this year? No, I would say they have no chance of winning a championship. And I believe that's why they were quiet on Thursday's trade deadline. They understand that. They're not trying to make a quick move for just this year. They're setting up for the future. Yeah. And I agree with not making a move.
Because, Grant, I really like the way they've played this year. And I'm trying to see the forest through the trees because when we were talking on my show, The Banter, I said, listen, I love the story. I'm not diminishing or shrinking what they're doing.
Right.
But when you get into a long series against the West, eventually the Jokic's and Memphis, you're just not going to be able to keep up. Although I do like, You're right, Sabonis looks like Sabonis is supposed to look. Fox, I mean, they've got some pieces, and I kind of like it. So if I were, if for you and me, if I said I got $10,000 and you had to bet it, are they going to be? Will they be in the first 6 seeds, or are we seeing them in 7 to 10? Got to pay in the play-in tournament. Which way are we working this?
If De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis don't get hurt, I think they'll be 6. I think they'll fall from 3 to 6. You know, Sean, with less than 30 games left, they have a pretty nice cushion between themselves and 7th in the loss column.
Right.
So the Kings are going to have to they're going to have to play less than 500 the rest of the way, which is possible. But I mean, they're going to have to really go through a horrible stretch. So for that reason, I think they could be 6. I do think they're going to get passed by Phoenix. I think the Clippers are going to pass them. And again, Sean, I'm saying if Luka and Kyrie can play well together, I think Dallas will pass them.
All the ifs.
Yep.
All the ifs in the Western Conference, man. It's unbelievable.
Well, I'm going to give you one more. New Orleans, if Zion Williamson can come back after the All-Star break, again, Sean, let's talk about this team. They were the top team in the West when he went down.
And Grant, you know, the thing, I hope when I watch the guy play when he's healthy, he's a machine.
Yep.
You know, and you always, okay, what kind of shape? You know, the question is, will he stay in shape? And will he consistently commit to fitness to stay in shape? And then an injury like this, an injury like that. I guess what I don't want to see is a career marred by big guy. When I say big guy, what's he?
You're right.
6'9" or something. They'll give you 25 games and got to miss 10. Then give you 15 more, got to miss 5. Because his ability to play, but the availability is bothersome to me.
Yep.
And that way, well, without him, they got no shot. But with him, the way they were playing, you go through and you mentioned the Lakers sitting at 13, and we know about the Suns, and it is a crazy ass Western Conference. But I do like what Sacramento's building in some of these teams. But to go back to your original question, the Suns got a legitimate shot, but there's still ifs that surround them, and health is a big part of it. And depth now being the fact that they had to give up quite a bit to roll the tape on and roll the dice on the big fellas and the big 3 that are going to have to carry them. And actually, you can throw 8 in there too.
All right, we got a big game coming up on Sunday, so let's talk about that. I'm going to start with Kansas City. Tell me why they're going to win the game.
Well, one is 15. I mean, he's built for this, Grant. This is right up his alley, and the head coach is a cut above every other coach that's in this game. He's a play caller that is unafraid and brings no ego to it and has no fear when he's calling plays at all. So you can't say, well, they're going to run out the clock. Andy will throw it 8 times in a row, even if they got a 21-point lead, if it fits what they're doing. Until somebody proves to me Kelsey is not going to find a way to get open. And Grant, let me give you just a look, because I get to see the all 22 right after games that a friend sends us.
Wow.
And up top and end zone camera.
Yep.
And do you realize that we still got teams as late as the Cincinnati Bengals playing 8-yard cushion on a Kelsey? It's a recipe for your ass getting kicked.
I don't understand
Philadelphia
that.
I don't either. Philadelphia cannot do that. So if the Chiefs, the key for them to win is keep Mahomes. When I say upright, Grant, I'm not even just talking about the pocket. Keep him off the ground outside the pocket, because he makes plays out there. And I'm keeping a close eye. If Kelsey has free reign, then he'll get a dozen catches. But I'm continuing to watch the running game, because in this, that's the least talked about thing is the Kansas City Chiefs running. Edwards-Helaire is back, and Pacheco, like I said, runs angry. So I'm watching that closely. If Mahomes stays on his feet, out or inside the pocket, and has time, and that pass rush does not get to him, he'll have his way throwing the football.
All right. What about the Eagles? Why will they win the game?
Stay two-dimensional on offense, Grant, where what I mean by that, and it's almost three-dimensional. Be able to commit to the run with your guys in the backfield. Make sure that Jalen Hurts is getting his good reads with his legs, which is a kind of a two-dimensional run game, because the inside game and his ability to stretch the defense and force them to play with, which gives you inside run. There's a highlight I saw last week or 2 weeks ago. I saw it a couple days ago, Grant, but on Fred Warner. It was last night, actually, watching tape. Is Fred's the best linebacker in the league, but in a red zone, they're so concerned about Jalen Hurts pulling it and getting to the edge that Fred ran himself out of position. And by the time he had to get back and fill where he's supposed to be, running back was in the end zone standing up untouched. So you got to guard against, and it's not even the hero thing, guard against so worried about this that kills you. So there's that. And then if you're going to play man coverage with young corners on the edge, with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, they are going to take shots. Grant, I will be shocked if in the first 2 series of this game for Philadelphia, they don't take a big shot out of play action or a double move down the field to see how Kansas City is going to play it. And then the biggest thing is the line of scrimmage, because with Chris Jones and Frank Clark, and then Ingram and the front, the defensive front for the Philadelphia Eagles and Fletcher Cox, can both lines both ways. Who dominates the line of scrimmage, which is usually a big part of the Super Bowl. But I'm wondering, will the Eagles have to blitz to get pressure on Mahomes? And they're not a big blitzing team.
All right, Jalen Hurts. We have been praising him all season. I just got a feeling that the world's going to learn a lot more about Jalen Hurts on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? I think this is his moment. I'd be very surprised, Sean, if you and I are talking on Monday about how Jalen Hurts just wasn't there for the moment and had a bad game. I just don't see that happening. It's
not going to, Grant. I'm just going to tell you, I would bet, and I would make you bet, because we're that tight. I'd say everything we got, that if the Philadelphia Eagles lose, and he throws a pick or lays the ball.
Yeah, right.
It isn't going to, Mahomes has thrown 4 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, in his Super Bowl games, right? I mean, So it happens to the best of them. But I can tell you what won't happen. The guy is not going to get rattled or be, it's not, he won't embarrass himself emotionally, meaning when I say embarrass himself, to where he loses control of the game and he chokes because the stage is too big. That's not happening. If Kansas City beats him, it's going to be because 15 played better, Andy put him in position, and they made more plays. Because I can promise you, of all the players in the league, and I say this loud as I can, there's better players. He's really good and is on his way to a $45 to $50 million deal, I promise you.
Sure.
But he is as poised and unflappable as any quarterback we have in this league, any player. Now, does that mean he's going to win and win the MVP? I don't know, but I can promise you this. They believe he's that good, and I know he's that poised. Right now, he is one of the ultimate weapons because he's a two-dimensional guy with his legs and arm. And I would caution anybody to say, just make him throw. I'd be careful about that because the guy can beat you throwing the football. And People are going to come out of this, I think, even more impressed with him, whether they win or not. And he is the real thing. They need not look any further for their franchise quarterback. And think how quick that's happened, Grant. We're only talking about 2-year full starter in his infancy. Guys, this guy's a phenomenal kid, too. He's only going to get better. And he doesn't really know how to play yet. And I mean that as a compliment.
Yep.
This matchup, this may not be the last time you see these two battle in a game like this in their careers.
All right, we talk about impact guys that can get to the quarterback. Jones for Kansas City, Reddick for Philadelphia. To me, Reddick, the way he's playing is unbelievable. I mean, he's just been unblockable.
Yeah, Grant, I left him out when I mentioned Philadelphia's front because he's like and Chris Jones has that ability because he plays inside and outside. Because I was going to say, even so, I'm glad you did. He's a standalone player. This is Reddick right now is playing not only with a motor, but an energy and a disruption that the Kansas City Chiefs have got to deal with. Now, their offensive line's good, but Grant, I'm not sure right now the way Reddick's going that and not in a negative way, but that I trust one guy trying to block him. I mean, he's getting to the backfield so quickly that that's one of those that the ball's on the ground and he's a game changer. So if you can, you're right. And hell, if a defensive guy wins it, keep an eye on Chris Jones and keep an eye on Hassan Reddick because both of them can embarrass your offense in this game.
It's a very good question. If defense wins championships, doesn't that favor the Eagles? And I would say yes, it does.
Yep, sure it does. Especially when you go by the numbers. But I can tell you this: that the Kansas City Chiefs had a good defensive year. That they did a lot of young guys in the back end, which is a concern.
Yep.
They're playing some young fellas in the back end, and so you're going to test them early. Is why I said I think Philadelphia will. But yes. Just like if the 49ers were in this situation, even with all those weapons, we'd still say, look what DeMeco Ryans has done, could be the key to the game. I do listen, and I'm going to, with this, and it's a great question, defense wins championships. I believe that's been a saying we've said for a long time. I'm not sure that's the full thing now because of the way offenses are.
And the rules.
I think defense, you're damn right. I'm not sure, Grant, we haven't flipped it around because if you asked me right now, Sean, you want the best quarterback and the best offense in the league and the 15th ranked defense, or flip them. Yep. I'm taking the best offense with the 15th ranked defense as opposed to the best defense with the 15th ranked quarterback in a game. I just am. Now, hey, you get great disruption and the Bears 85 defense, but the game has changed so much. I think if we had to do that again, there'd be an asterisk by it. And you'd say, I'm not sure this holds true most of the time because you got to score. But in the fourth quarter, that definitely comes true because if you get a couple stops, the game changes for you, and Philadelphia would have to be the favorite when it comes to that.
Sean, it was Lawrence Taylor's birthday this week, and I follow someone on Twitter, and they put out all of his videos. And the game in the era that you played was ferocious. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. It was ferocious, and it was open season on quarterbacks. And when I look at the way the game was played, and I'm speaking to somebody that knows that a hell of a lot better than I do, it's night and freaking day. Can you imagine Sean playing quarterback now? I'm not saying it was easy. It would be easy. But from a physical perspective, Sean, you're going to be protected. You were never protected back then, Sean. Never. You were open season.
Yeah, there's no question. And when you say that, sometimes you'll get a little bit younger crowd that'll say, oh, that's just old head. Old heads talking about, well, when I played. And you and I are fortunate. We got to see great players like Jim Kelly and Marino and Elway and all that. And I got to play in the league at that time as those guys and see it through to the Mannings and the Bradys all the way through to now, what we're seeing these young, great studs play. I talked to Jim McMahon about it. I've talked to Seth Joyner. I mean, at both sides of the ball. And Grant, it has nothing to do with that the athletes aren't great. Hell, nobody's saying that.
No one's
saying that. But let's just face facts. While the game is different, the game itself is not better. If you like, scoring. I'm talking about the quality of football is not better because the Jack Lamberts and the Tatums.
Of course not.
It's not a better brand of football. It's just what you've seen in your era. I've seen both, and remove me from even being a player. Come on now. And Jim McMahon, who was a tough, taking all the hits. Mac said this morning when I talked to him, I said, Mac, is there things about the game you don't like now? He goes, well, it's not real football. He goes, because we're losing the integrity of tackle football.
Yep.
And he said, come on, kid. He always called me kid. He goes, come on, kid. I mean, if you play now, he goes, of course, numbers and you're going to be better because you never have to concern yourself with.
Correct.
Is there anytime there's a questionable call, you get it for the most part. The quarterback's getting it. So I don't mean that. It's not to say that Manning couldn't have gone back and played. Of course he could have. But the overall brand of football, it's not that we're tougher and we walk into a bar and big. I'm just telling you now that was for the faint of heart. Had no business. You shouldn't have applied back then.
Oh boy.
Nowadays you can be a little faint of heart and still survive this league. You just can. And if Marino was throwing now, I mean, I listen. And I could tell you the Elways and those guys were doing stuff like Mahomes then. It's just not, we didn't have social media and all that. It's just a different game. It is, but I can tell you what, the toughness is not anywhere near what they went through, what we went through in the 80s. It's just not.
Sean, I watched Johnny Unitas play in person. All right. I mean, I watched Jim Brown play in person. I watched an era where, but you could say that about all sports. The NBA is drastically different from when I was growing up watching Willis Reed go against Will Chamberlain and Wes Unseld. And I don't think the game is for the better now. I think the NBA's got a lot of issues. I think they need to fix their game. I think their game is in many nights becoming unwatchable, but things change, things evolve. And in all fairness, Sean, I mean, let's just call it the way it is. We have a lot more data. We have a lot more science in terms of the effect of concussions and things of that nature. And, say what you want. I mean, you don't want people having dementia in their 50s and not having a good life when they're in their 60s. And I get that. CTE, things we didn't know then that we know now. So I understand. But here's what bothers me, Sean. The tackle that injured Patrick Mahomes a few weeks ago, they now want to take that out of the game. If you take that type of a tackle out of the game, then you really are, Jim McMahon's right, it really is not tackle football anymore.
Well, if we're going to do that, what I'd rather do is honestly, Grant, I know this sounds like overly hyperbolic. I would rather put a red jersey on him, let the other 10 guys play physical. I honestly would just go by and two-hand touch the quarterback, honest to God, or hit a buzzer on him back, because we can't. This is from an offensive player that would rather have the hits. And and how that it's basically fucked up when it comes to that. Grant, we've overcorrected. Nobody wants a head-to-head on a helmet. Nobody wants to get hurt. Unfortunately, they happen. But we've overcorrected to the point of the integrity's lost. And we know going in what we're getting into. But nowadays, it's extending careers by 5 or 6 games because players are afraid the hit that they would have taken, so the coach didn't ream them on Monday. An illegal hit is the hit that they're passing up because I don't want fined, I'm not doing this. And they just back off it and you get free reign. But when the Lawrence Taylors or those guys of the world on that side of the ball will tell you, this is a different game we're watching on both sides of the ball, and even young players are looking like, what is this? Then you know that it's a different game. And I just think we're missing something. And I almost feel bad for the 20 or 30-somethings that didn't get to see Lawrence Taylor and that type of football live.
It's unbelievable.
And see the physicality of it. And, crowned in a helmet to the sternum was not an illegal hit when we played, let alone the chin music that you got. So I love these guys. They're supremely talented. The game's not better, and I can sure as shit tell you that the faint of heart, this is a whole different era. The game was much more physical and much tougher to survive in the time you're talking about. That's just a fact.
Sean, I think this is really an evenly matched game. I think this is a close game. And I always talk about this, and I'm going to talk about it again because of what we saw in the AFC Championship game. There are times when these games come down to the player that makes just a brain-freeze, stupid decision like Osai did in hitting Mahomes way out of bounds, okay? That enabled Kansas City to get a field goal, which ended up sending them to the Super Bowl. Every week, it seems like we're talking about a 15-yard penalty that changes field position, that keeps a drive going. And I'm afraid we're going to see it again in the biggest game in this country annually. And that just is mind-boggling to me, Sean, because it happens every single week in the NFL. And I'm like, how the hell do players allow themselves to do that? Whether it's a taunting penalty, whether it's a celebration, wherever the hell may be, can't have it on Sunday.
And also, Grant, you're going to get a call in the game that they shouldn't have called, that they'll call, and we're going to be pissed about it. I'm just telling you it's going to happen. Yep. And to even further it, I'm still baffled. You're told on special teams, do not, if you see the guy's number, don't block him. And yet it literally every week, illegal block in the back on the return team. It's like, dude, what part of, if you see his jersey, just throw your hands in the air and you just got to let it go. You just can't do it. And so the game turns around 3rd and 4, A guy comes up, guy's 2 yards out of bounds, bam, hit him, flip the field. Now you go down and score, and it's like that ends up being the difference. It's never one play, but yes, on boneheaded plays by players, and a lot of the rules have forced guys to make boneheaded plays because they're indecisive. And then there's just the guy who's like, dude, what are you thinking? And we'll also get officials calls in this that we're going to shake our head and it's going to piss us off. I just hope that we're talking minimal about the officials on Monday morning, because that will mean it's a good football game, and the loser or the winner doesn't roll into this with controversy. And let me say thanks to Russ. That's a great compliment. And BV50, yes, Chris Carter was the go-to guy, but an underrated go-to guy was Steve Jordan, our Pro Bowl tight end from Brown, who I trusted as much as any player I've ever played with.
Wow. All right, who's your pick on Sunday, Sean?
Grant, from a standpoint, it feels to me from the people I've talked to and look on whatever shows I'm watching, and I know some say it different, I feel like there's an overwhelming groundswell that Philadelphia is winning this game. And in some cases, people got it by a lot. I just, with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, two of the most important positions, advantage them as much as I like Hurts and Sirianni.
Andy Reid's lost a lot of big games, Sean.
He sure has. He sure has. And then I look over the last handful of, and he's 27-4 coming out of a bye week. 27-4. So if Andy Reid, if there was ever a time when you say, well, if I'm sitting on the fence, okay, but the real fence sitter is just this: the dude playing quarterback is an alien. He just is talent, and so I think Philadelphia is a better team, more complete.
I do too.
But I don't until you show me that you take Kelsey out of it. Until you show me Andy Reid has bozo decisions, which I rarely see, even though they get beat, and until Mahomes proves that he's not going to, if he's got the ball last, I'm trusting he's going to go down and win it. So we'll see. But the last time we saw Philly in this Super Bowl, even though the quarterback threw for 500+ yards, that defense got a great strip sack fumble in the end and went on to win that game. So they have found a way to and they did that with a backup quarterback. And this guy that's playing on Sunday is better than Nick Foles. I am going to take the Chiefs, though, Grant. I know that I'm in the minority with this. I got the Chiefs and the under 27-23, and I do think it'll be a fourth quarter win. I don't think this is 27-10 and they come back. I think it's fairly dramatic.
I like Philadelphia 27-24. I think they've been undervalued all year. I think they've been disrespected. Even Deebo Samuel, was it yesterday or the day before, on Media Row, saying that if Brock Purdy had not been hurt, we would have beat them by double digits in Philadelphia.
I don't believe they would have beat him by double. They might have beat him, but they would have been a lot closer. And Robbie Gould saying if he has to play quarterback, a kicker, I mean, no disrespect to kickers. Yeah. They have their opinion. But for Robbie Gould to say if Jalen Hurts has to play quarterback, I'm just paraphrasing that it'll be a different story. Well, Jalen Hurts has played quarterback to the tune of second in the MVP voting all year long, even though it was one-sided for Mahomes. That's another thing. There is made for a team that's a number one seed, and the guy finished second in the MVP. I'm actually fascinated by the way that some people, opposing players, kind of roll their eyes at the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles are real, or they wouldn't have been in this position all year long. I can't wait for the game. I hope it lives up to what I think it's going to. I hope it lives up to double one seeds.
Hey, I'm going to step in here if you don't mind. Sean's not telling you what to do with your money. Your money is your money. That's Sean's opinion on what's going to happen. All right. He's not, you make your own decisions with how you bet. Sean's not telling you to do anything. He's giving you his opinion.
And this is, you bet responsibly, just like I tell you, if you're going to drink tequila, drink tequila responsibly, because I'm drinking tequila at my house. Okay. So do that responsibly. If you think you want to do it, I know what I'm going to do. My opinion is I like the under in the game and I like the Chiefs. Now, guess what? There's a lot of people that think different than I do on this one. So go talk to one of those gurus. That's just my opinion from study. So you're exactly right, Grant. And do it responsibly, no matter what you do. Okay. And have fun. And I hope whatever you do, you get paid, my man.
Hey, just for a little background, okay, at the NCAA, TCU and Georgia, we both picked TCU. It was the most lopsided game in history. So we're just giving you what we think is going to happen. We're not telling you what to do with your money, okay?
But I'll tell you this. I have one more that I've lost this year. I'll leave it at that.
Well, and you know what? That's a good year, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm being a bit facetious. Hey, listen, as long as you can hang on and have fun doing it, and it's all it's all about just keeps you in the competition, fine. But hey, man, go with what your gut is and just study it. Like you'll know your gut will tell you. I got you, Russ. You got it. Yeah,
All right, buddy.
TCU. Yeah, TCU and Georgia. We found out real quick who the grown man was at that. I mean, what team was a little more grown up in that game, didn't we?
Oh
Awesome.
my gosh.
I appreciate you, brother. Have a great
take
one.
care.
Enjoy the game with your buddies, and
Yeah.
I look forward to it. And all our listeners and followers, you guys are awesome. Thanks.
Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
All right, bud. See ya.
All right, good stuff right there with Sean. Oh my gosh. It's amazing how people literally, well, Sean said to bet the under. No, Sean said that's what he's doing. All right, we are brought to you by New Works Plumbing of Sacramento, locally owned for over 20 years. New Works has a fix for you. Just go to SacServicePlumbing.com or call the number on your screen. New Works, they've got a fix for you. Ryan in Sacktown, Kings and Mavs tonight. No Luka Doncic. De'Aaron Fox has been added to the All-Star squad, which we knew he would. And so that's good news, but no Luka. He's hoping that he can play tomorrow. And that doesn't surprise me. You and I talked about this, and we talked about this. I think you and I talked about this yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. I said if he's going to play, he's going to play on Saturday, not Friday.
Yeah, no surprise, and you were spot on with that one. Give him another day of rest. No reason to rush him back, right? They just made the big move. Kyrie's in town, meshing with the team. Let him get going. But Saturday night should be very interesting to see how that works out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Kings, again, I'm not sure which Sacramento Kings team is going to show up tonight. I really don't. The Kings could win by 20, and I wouldn't be surprised. They could lose by 20, and I wouldn't be surprised. They could give up 130, and I wouldn't be surprised. They could score 130, and I'm not being surprised. I don't know what to expect from the Kings night to night now.
That's how all of us pretty much are at this point, Grant.
Yeah.
I mean, traditionally coming off of a long road trip, probably going to be some struggles right off the bat.
Yeah.
But I think, with Fox getting named to the All-Star team, there may have been some, not tension in the locker room, but the players being apprehensive around the trade deadline. Now that that's passed and everybody's still in place, maybe they get into a better spot. Home energy comes and the good Kings show up. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, so I would take a split right now. If you told me the Kings would split these two games, I would take that. How about you?
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, Grant, 500 ball. Going forward, that is what the Kings absolutely need to do with the schedule that they're facing after the All-Star.
A great point. With the schedule the way it is, they have the third hardest schedule remaining in the NBA. 500 the rest of the way. Yeah, I would take that in a heartbeat.
Amen. Very interesting stuff, too. And if you didn't hear, it looks like De'Aaron Fox accidentally broke the news that Kevin Huerter is going to be participating in the three-point contest on All-Star Weekend. So that'll be 4 Kings out in Salt Lake City.
Accidentally, huh?
Accidentally, yeah. Kevin tried to slide it under the rug. Well, I'm still waiting. And then Fox is like, I'm happy to have 4 of us out there. And all the media is like, wait, what? So
yeah, that's good. You know what? The Kings deserve it. They're 31 and 23. They deserve to be recognized. I think that's great. It's great. It's great for the fans. And, that's awesome. I'm happy. I don't think Kevin Huerter should be in the 3-point shooting contest, by the way. I don't think he's earned it. That's my opinion.
Well, Grant, I mean, I disagree. For the season, he's still shooting over 40% from behind the 3-point line. And, it's a long season, and the Kings have struggled across the board offensively. So maybe the 3-point competition is what gets him right.
And I'm rooting for him. I'll be rooting for him in the 3-point shooting contest because he's from New York, and he's a big Yankees and Giants fan. So I'm rooting for him, just so you know, okay?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I hope he does well. I really do. All right, Ryan and I are going to be on at halftime tonight and after the game as well. So we're looking forward to that. The Kings and the Mavs, again, no Luka tonight, although he did say that he is hoping to play tomorrow night. So that really puts a lot more pizzazz on that game tomorrow, which also would if the Kings lose tonight, then that makes it a little bit more daunting tomorrow. I mean, Luka's a very special player. So let's hope the Kings can get that W tonight. And if they lose tomorrow, as you said, and I said, that's okay. You'll take a split right now.
Yep, 500 ball the rest of the way, and I think they could be looking at that 6th spot. Really interesting. Not sure if you caught any of Monty McNair's press conference, but the Kings were very happy with keeping this core in place. They're content where they're at, and they have a long-term plan. So I really liked what I heard today. So we'll probably get into that more later.
The one thing that bothered me, and I'm very consistent with this, and I'm not saying it because it's the Kings. I would say this about any team. I'm tired. I shouldn't say I'm tired. I think people need to be careful right now about talking who should be coach of the year, who should be the rookie of the year, blah, blah, blah. There's too many games left for that. Okay. And this thing could unravel in a hurry in this conference with the schedule upcoming. I'm just saying that. All right. This is a very fragile place to be right now with this schedule and how, in my opinion, Jekyll and Hyde, the Kings have been, and the fact that they haven't had any injuries yet. I would just stick to what you just said. Go out and win as many games as you can after 82. Let's add them up, and then we'll hand out the awards then. It's February. All right. It's February. Let's cool it a little bit on coach of the year, rookie of the year, and things of that nature. That's just me. But I heard Monty McNair say that, Mike Brown is, overwhelmingly the coach of the year in the NBA to this point. And I'm like, let's just cool it. All right. There's 30 games left, or 28 or whatever it is.
Yeah, Grant. I mean, there's a general excitement here in Sacramento about the team and, the big turnaround, which a lot of people didn't expect this soon. That's been kind of the rhetoric coming from the front office. But when they talked to De'Aaron today about his all-star selection, he said, I didn't really care one way or the other, even on the first vote. So I don't think that that's really like with the players. I just think it's drumming up Sacramento and building momentum. But yeah, it's something that who cares about coach of the year at this point, really? If we can have coach of the year, we can have sixth man of the year. But if we don't have the playoffs, then great. Who cares?
And I don't believe De'Aaron didn't care. I believe he did care. He's talked about it in the past, what a big deal it is. I mean, that's just him being humble, and I'm okay with that, but I don't believe that answer. I don't.
You know what? I don't believe it over the long run, but I do believe that he would have been content with the son or the birth of his new son.
Yeah. 100%. That I do agree with. I do. Well, it should be fun tonight, buddy. We're looking forward to seeing you at halftime, and then we'll be on after the game as well.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
But one thing before we let you go, because I said I was going to ask you on today with We Talk to Super Bowl, what's your pick for Sunday?
Oh my gosh. You know what? It's hard to go against KC, right? They always show up, but there's something about this Eagles team this year, and it kills me to say this because I really don't want to see the Eagles fans what they're going to do if they win another Super Bowl in the streets, because it was bad enough after the NFC Championship. But the Eagles really haven't been tested. They haven't had to put everything out there in the postseason with the injury to Purdy. And it just feels like it's going to be their year. They're playing fundamental, strong, smash mouth football with Jalen Hurts. Yep. And I think ultimately the Eagles get out to a big lead, maybe 2 touchdowns. Kansas City will make it close in the long run or towards the end, but the Eagles end up prevailing.
I think so too. I got them 27-24. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you in about a few hours. Okay.
Sounds good. And tails on the coin flip, guys. You got a 50% chance.
All right, all right. Well, then I'm taking heads. Okay, so you got tails and I have heads. And by the way, for those of you that want to follow me, in about 20 minutes, I'm going to be on Larry Krueger's YouTube channel live. So if you are free, there you go. YouTube. I'll be on there with Larry at 4:00 Pacific.
See you there, bud.
I'll be there. See you, bud.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye.
All right, good stuff. Don't forget again to join us right here on If You Don't Like That at halftime and following again.